like that music. Fantastic, great stuff. Welcome back to Cape Breton Diver Guide. My name is Mark Boutot from the Nervous Wreck Dive Club.
The club dive coordinator, I must say, newly elected. And I'm Ken Jardine, instructor at Scuba Tech in Sydney, Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, Canada.
And like we said, welcome back to a brand new season of Cape Breton Diver Guide.
Season number 2, and the shows are now numbered 2.01, which is their Seaside Cable. It's fancy. You can see we have our Seaside Cable teleprompter here, paper teleprompter. But the show is going to have a new name. This is our 11th install. We did a series of 10 in the air, and thank you for watching. A lot of people have enjoyed it. And we're doing 10 more, and it's going to be called a Cape Breton Diver. We're getting rid of the little guide, and there's a new graphic which you haven't seen yet.
Not yet.
Because you were at a
Looking
computer.
forward to.
Well, you were at a computer course.
That's right.
Internet.
That's right.
We'll have internet info for you probably in a week or two to how to get in touch with us on the internet.
Yeah, we'll have an internet address for you.
Right. So how long have we got for this little intro here?
We have about half the time used up now.
We just about got it. So what are we doing today?
Okay. Today what we'd like to do is, again, you'll find the format of the show has been changed a little bit so we can provide more actual diving footage, underwater footage, rather than spend a lot of time doing this Tech Talk stuff and that. So, on Tech Talk, we're going to talk a little bit about underwater cameras, and you'll find it's a nice little short section.
That's with the video housing and stuff like that. How do we put the camera in? Anyway, you'll see it. It's really nice, and it'll give you a good idea. I had a guy in the shop asking about underwater video the other day, actually.
We'll have to check it out.
You see that?
Our location,
the dive itself,
is going to be very interesting. It's probably something that you may never come across, but we thought it would be kind of cute. It's on moose diving, and moose dive is what we call it, and the instructor tips is on equipment checklist.
Right, so without further ado, we'll get to the underwater camera and come back and show you us getting a moose.
Welcome back to Tech Talk. Today we're going to show you how we shoot all this underwater footage, the gear we use, and as you can see, it's just a regular camcorder that fits into an underwater housing, and all the footage you see underwater has all been shot on this camera gear. And I'm just going to show you how we assemble it here, and there's really not a whole lot to it. It's just a regular housing for underwater. Your camera fits inside. We have everything preset here, by the way. Make this a little quicker. Since we're shooting in cold water, we find that the battery level goes down fairly quickly on these small batteries, so we just put a little neoprene boot, the same material the wetsuits are made of, right on the battery, and it seems to hold the life of the battery quite a bit longer. There are two plug-ins. One inside the housing is for your microphone, underwater microphone, which is right here. And the other one is to override the controls inside to the controls outside. And that is basically it. The camera's in place. We just need to drop it into the housing. What seals the housing are two O-rings, and these need to be kept clean and well greased with silicone all the time. And then it's just a matter of dropping the whole unit inside, making sure that, my mouth isn't working right here, making sure that the rings aren't pinched. Press her down and lock her in place. And voila! That's it. This here has all your outside controls, your off and on, your zoom in, zoom out, and we're all set. The line that you see over here, this is just a lanyard that we tie onto our wrist in case that we don't lose the camera in the water, because at times it does get rough. We use a safety precaution on this unit here, and they're just little watch straps, Velcro straps, and we just lock the handles in case one of them gets knocked off, because it has happened. And this camera does get a little expensive when you have to replace it. if water does get inside and onto the camera is pretty well history. And all you do is you just tie the strap, lock it in, and there you go. So until next week, have fun, enjoy diving, play safe, and we'll see you underwater.
Well, we're back. You look like you know.
Oh, do you like that for a nice short 3-minute tech talk?
Short tech talk. That'll give us a little more time to get underwater.
That's right. I think our viewers are going to enjoy this a little bit better.
We'll have to apologize a little bit, folks. We're rushing it just a tad because it's our first turn back in the studio since last fall. But we're going to try a few new things here.
One of the new things we're going to do is we're going to show you on a map how to get to these dive locations. And if you want to go over to the map, Ken, and show us where this dive location is.
Let's see. Is the map up yet on the... Okay, we're on. Good stuff. All right. Well, to get to the place where the moose was actually in the water, if you start from Sydney, you'd follow the 125 bypass over toward North Sydney. You take the Trans-Canada 105 all the way out across Seal Island Bridge, over Kelly's Mountain, look out St. Anne's Buffalo. Take a turn down and go across the Englishtown Ferry, up Highway 312. Now you're on the Cabot Trail. Just an absolutely gorgeous drive all up along past Wreck Cove and all these good places. Up over Cape Smoky, through Ingonish, up toward Neils Harbor here, and go past Neils Harbor, all the way up into Cape North. When you get to Cape North, there's a little garage there at Cape North. Scott McKinnon runs it, and you take a right there, and that'll take you right down into Aspy Bay. Now this is where the moose was at, down in Aspy Bay, right about here. All right, it's about 100 miles from Sydney, and let me get back in my chair here. Wow. Okay, live television. Here we go.
Hey, did you have a nice trip?
Nice trip. That's me. No problem. What?
What was the purpose behind this?
All right.
Like we call it a moose dive.
Here's the beauty of it. You're sitting in the shop. You get a call from Department of Fisheries, and they're saying, we need someone to, we're not going to make it time-wise.
Okay, let's roll into it and just keep explaining it as we go.
Okay, that'll work. Sure. All right, we'll cut away to it. I'm sitting in the shop, right? Phone rings, pick it up. Hi, it's the guy from Department of Fisheries. Says, we have a moose that fell through the ice. We need you to come and get it. I said, you got to be joking. The guy says, no. He said, the moose fell through the ice. The reason they needed the moose gotten out of there was because it was right on top in Aspy Bay there. This is some of the best oyster beds in the world. These guys ship oysters to New York, to France, all over the place. And the oyster fisherman, of course, who has the lease on these beds, he was quite concerned because he makes his living at it.
Most definitely, yeah.
So the worry was with the biologist was the moose would start to decompose, get into the food chain, make the oysters basically unmarketable.
Exactly.
So you actually came on the dive with me, but you didn't know about this preamble stuff. So you're sitting around your average scuba shop one day, and the next day you're heading out to get a moose. So we got John Doucette and yourself and myself. It's a nice diving operation.
Why don't you explain to the viewers at home what you're doing here right now? No, we're not tying blocks of ice together.
Okay, what we were doing there was we were tying off a locking rope. If you can see the large triangular hole there for the ice dive, and off behind that you can see on the left of your screen some wooden pallets. In between the triangular hole and the wooden pallets, on the ice there's a little piece of wood and some rope. What we do there is we cut a small hole in the ice, pass a piece of wood down through it, and we have an eye on the surface, a rope eye, so that we can tie our divers off. Whenever you do ice diving operations, it's always tended. You wear a harness and you're tended. And here's so you can see the ice on the lens of the camera.
You're just getting ready to enter the water.
Yeah, I'm just going in the water.
It'd be quite a surprise to you.
There's the ice itself, and I pop through. Okay, and oh, what's that? Looks like something out of that movie Showgirls. Oh, she has 4 legs. Okay.
You can see the mixture of the fresh and salt water.
Yeah. And this is what I saw as soon as I popped through the hole, was a full-grown moose over 1,000 pounds just hanging there. There's nothing wrong with your TV screen. Those little swirls, it's called a halo climb. Basically, it's the fresh and salt water mixing, and it causes a distortion in the lens. But this was one of the eeriest things I ever saw in my life scuba diving, was to see this moose. And I'll tell you, the guys did a real good job that live out there. They figured they knew pretty much where the moose was.
They were about 5 feet away from
We cut the hole 5
moose,
feet or 10 feet from the moose, and we thought that would be the worst part, would be the actual finding it. It turned out the hardest part of the job was
getting the moose turned
the
over.
nerve to get at the hole.
In a moment, you'll see how close to the actual hole this moose is.
Yeah, the poor critter she was trying to get across there, and the ice was quite thin when she fell through. And at this point, the ice was, well, the chainsaw was an 18-inch blade, and it barely was long enough to do the job cutting the hole. So we had a good 14 inches of ice. So we cut the hole, popped down below. John was the first one in the water, and he just put his face in and popped his head. He didn't even get his regulator in his head. It's there.
There's where the hole is in relation to the moose.
Yeah, you can see the rope going up into the triangular hole, and there's the moose.
Yeah. And that rope, by the way, is the safety line that's tied onto you.
Yeah,
onto
I'm doing the video here. Did you know?
No, I
you
didn't
didn't do it in the
like
water,
that.
did you? No, you did all the surface stuff. Yeah, you had the harder part of that, actually. But this was incredibly eerie. I mean, this is the size of a good-sized horse. These are not small critters. And as you can see her there, her snout, the top of her head, the whole length of her spine, right to her tail, was embedded in what, Mark? 4 or 5 inches of ice?
In about 4 or 5 inches of ice, yeah.
Totally locked into the ice. And just incredible. But once it's like moose hunting. Once you find your moose or get your moose, the work starts and the fun stops.
That's right.
This mirror effect you're seeing here, folks, that is my exhaust bubbles forming on the ice, and it is very much like a mirror when they collect on the ice like that. What I had to do here now was measure out from the hole, and we had to be fairly exact with this. Measure out underwater, and then come to the surface and give them a good indication of where the moose was, and we had to carve out roughly where we thought the moose was on the surface so we could make our cut and get the darn thing out of there. We couldn't do anything from in the water, obviously.
That's right. No, it was embedded in the ice so badly we couldn't try to move it with the rope or anything whatsoever.
No. I wonder if you had underwater the welding torches, could you have cut the ice around her or something?
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's embarrassing sometimes. Would that have worked? Because it was
This is where it works right here.
Do you have any more underwater footage of the moose later on, Mark? Or that was it? Okay. So, as you can see, once you see the picture of the moose actually underwater, there's not a lot much more to it. We had to figure out where the moose was and start cutting the holes with the chainsaw. It's just a regular chainsaw. You don't do anything special to the saw. It's a good idea to have a big hunk of wood off to the side somewhere so you can clean your blade every so often.
As you can see here, the chunk of ice was cut now, but the problem is, over here, we have to flip that chunk of ice over and get the moose up on top.
Yeah.
And it's not just a matter of flipping it over, there's a lot of weight there.
We did the math on it. Remember what a gallon of water weighs? Salt water? How much? Or a cubic foot, rather.
Cubic foot of salt water weighs 64 pounds.
Right, no profit. 64 pounds. Now, you figure those
fingers again?
Yeah, how many fingers? You figure that block is probably about 3 feet across, and, geez, Mark, it must be 7 feet long.
At least 7 feet.
Right?
At least.
And over a foot thick. So we're talking 21 feet of ice, or more, times 64 pounds.
Yeah, not counting the weight of the moose. That's
1,200, we had roughly 1,200 pounds of ice there. I know there's some was saying, math on this way better than me. It's about 1,200 pounds of ice, plus 1,000 pounds of moose.
There we are right there trying to flip, and there it is. It's flipped over.
Once we got the moose flipped, then we could pull her up onto the ice and start chipping the actual...
In a few minutes you'll see the actual size of this moose, and you'll see why it wasn't that easy of a task.
We had 2 skidoos, one of those ATVs, 4-wheel little jubbies, and about 10 people pulling on this thing, and the skidoos and everything were just spinning like crazy.
Just no traction on bare ice, because at this point in time, there's not a whole lot of snow up there.
No, we're lucky. I mean, if it had been a lot of snow, big snow drifts, or bad weather and that. This operation could have taken a long time.
That is probably good moose fishing around here. It sure is. Only in Cape Breton Island.
Yeah, we're the only people I know that went moose fishing through ice and got one.
Yeah.
Never heard of anybody
Coming
else.
back to what I was going to say, it's a good thing that there wasn't a whole lot of snow that day, or particularly that around that time. Otherwise, they may not have found the exact location of that moose.
Yeah, I remember when we got there were some tufts of hair showing
Through the ice.
through the ice. You can see John there. Yeah, that's you with
me,
the
folks, in the orange. They're walking
and
across
that's
the
John
street.
with the dry suit with the green on it, getting the board there to go.
Yeah.
And we broke one 2x4 trying to no, that's a 2x6. What kind of wood is that, man? We snapped one right off, and John and I ended up having to get down into the hole, halfway into the hole. And it's us being there with the dry suits on. We couldn't take them off because we're also the safety people for all these other people that are helping us. If one of them falls in the hole,
that's right.
You know, they're in trouble. And
at this point in time of the operation we were doing, there were a bunch of people a little further down in the bay and on skates, and they were skating, and the kids were
all
coming
the kids
around
came
the
up
hole.
with the skates. That's right too.
So we had to be very careful to keep them away from there.
Yeah. What normally you do, the triangular hole there, you push the triangular wedge out of the way before you go underwater, of course, to clear your hole up. And what you like to do is pull that triangular block back into the hole and plug it again. Unfortunately, with the weather conditions, etc., the triangular block sort of melted and then refroze itself to the main sheet of ice.
Exactly.
And we couldn't do that, so we filled the hole in with a whole bunch of small pieces of ice, and then took the chainsaw and went and cut a couple of trees and shoved them in there. Now, granted, the next day there'd probably be 4 inches of ice there.
Yeah, it wouldn't take very much.
It wouldn't do in the middle of the night to have a skidoo come tearing across there and go right through a 10-foot hole.
I guess it was about -15.
Yeah. If we had had wind or anything, Mark, we would have perished in there. We really were lucky with the condition. You can see the 4-wheel job, just spinning like crazy. You know, on reflection, I guess hindsight being 20/20, a come-along, we could have cut another locking hole farther up in the ice, or used our own the locking hole, and used either a chain pulls or come-along. Would have been great for that, or built a tripod and used a come-along to get it out.
Yeah, because that was a lot of work. If it hadn't been for the dozen people hanging around giving a hand, those machines never would have moved on.
No.
The problem is that big chunk of ice is just holding the moose down. There's no way of it coming up. I think this is just about where we start getting a handle on it.
Yeah. The whole ice diving anyway is very enjoyable, and with proper training, it's a very low-risk aspect of diving. But people always think, oh, you must be crazy, even like the polar bear swimming now, people think you're nuts to go jumping in. But when you're ice diving, well, you've been ice diving, you don't get cold.
No, you don't. The water temperature, if you think about it, is usually warmer than your temperature.
Oh.
It's more comfortable in the water than it is standing in the
I did an ice dive 2 weeks ago out in Blackett Lake. Some poor guy had his foot frozen up. And, it's coming. There was a piece of ice hanging on the lip there.
Take a look at the chunk of ice
on the back
of the moose there.
When I did that ice dive, the water was 31 degrees Fahrenheit. The air temperature was about 18. So, yeah, we got her there.
It's just a matter of pulling it up a little bit more. Come on, guys, pull a little harder.
We had chipped off half of that block at that point. We were still having trouble getting her up.
Exactly.
I think we held her there and chipped off some more, didn't we? And
we just got it up a little bit higher. And trimmed off some of the ice.
Yeah, but that, you can see it there, folks. At about this point, we had to put the camera down and get as many people on this thing as we could. And I think we're going to be coming back in the studio here any second. Yeah, are we? We getting close? But John's a big burly brute there. He got us back into it, and we got her out. But we ended up putting the moose over on a little island, leaving nature take its course, I guess. There was a bunch of eagles had to feed.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, the eagles were feeding on that before the sun went down. How long were we there all day, do you remember? We got there quite early in the morning.
We were there before 8 o'clock in the morning, or in around the 8 o'clock mark, and I think we left around 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
It's getting very close to dark.
Yeah. But that's a big creature there, as you can see. The moose is a lot bigger than the ice block. That's for darn
Much
sure.
bigger, much larger.
1, 2, 3,
There we go.
That was
Finally.
Yeah,
That was a lot of work.
A lot of work is right. A lot of work. I tell you, I was so happy. When I got my dry suit off that day, I was absolutely sweating. You wouldn't believe it, how hot it was. We ended up putting it on a sheet of plywood, wasn't it? Made a little sleigh out of a sheet of plywood.
We laid it on a sheet of plywood. The snowmobiles wouldn't budge at all.
No, couldn't move it at all.
No, it had some sort of a slide underneath it.
Yeah. But if you want to talk about your unique dives, I think, what was the last show in the series?
Only in Cape Breton.
What was the last show in the series? It was
The Blue Shark.
That was the shark show, yeah. So you got a shark, and then you got a moose. If we had got the moose with the shark would have ate the moose, and we wouldn't have had to worry about the moose, but such is life, I guess.
The food chain.
Yeah, we're at here.
Okay,
See, we're rusty. We're rusty at this.
Oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Hopefully this will get better as we go along.
Nowhere to go but up, right? But try not to kill ourselves with a map next time.
Anyways, now our next part is going to be instructor tips. And again, folks, I think you're going to enjoy this section because it's crunched down again.
We're talking with people, and thank you very much for your comments and encouragement, by the way, that we've gotten since the show's been...
Yes, very much so.
The first 10 episodes that went, I know living on the north side and having lots of friends in Glace Bay, we're hearing lots of feedback in the public, which we really enjoy. A few people have mentioned to have the actual diving segment a little bit longer, and that's what we're trying to do, and which we like also.
Exactly, and one of the other comments that was made was to show where these dive locations are, and we'll attempt to do this using the maps.
How to get there. Yep. Except for the scallop diving spots, find them yourself. We get our spots, you get your spots.
We'll give you a general idea where the scallop dives are, like in around the island somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah. It's on Cape Breton, over there by the rock. Can't miss it. All right, next part, equipment checklist. I think I did these ones, didn't I?
Those are yours.
Yeah, equipment checklist, an important part of every diver's dive, I guess. In fact, there was a dive kind of screwed up on the weekend because people didn't use their checklist. They got in the water with no weight belts. Kind of hard to dive. So anyway, folks, sit back, relax. You can watch this instructor tip segment on equipment checklist, and we'll get right back to you.
Okay.
Hi, welcome to Instructor Tips here on the wharf in Gavroos. We shot all these things in one day. I'm freezing to death here with this little sweater on, but that's all right. We're divers. We're tough. We can take it. What I'm doing right now is we're going to be getting in the water in a few minutes. Mark and Dave are getting their stuff together, their equipment together. But before going in the water, I want to go over something here, one of my diver checklists. There are a ton of equipment checklists that you can get. We have, in my deluxe logbook here, I have a dive pre-planning checklist, a dive equipment checklist, we have a sea state chart, conversion charts, many, many different types of checklists. The one that the average diver is going to use, though, is their equipment checklist. All right? First off, equipment. Do I have my kit bag? Well, I had that, and normally you would check these before you leave your home, or in my case, before I leave the shop there, Scuba Tech. Have my equipment, make sure I have my mask, snorkel, fins, my wetsuit jacket, boots, pants, hood, and gloves, my weight belt, my buoyancy compensator, and my dive knife. Have my scuba tank brackets filled. Went all the way to Englishtown once with my buddy Daryl Baxendale. Got out there, been planning to dive forever. Daryl puts the gauges on, tank was empty. And in those days, there was no shop in Cape Breton. We couldn't get air. The nearest shop was Halifax. Regulator with your pressure gauges. Make sure your gauges are working, too, especially if it's in the spring and you haven't used your gear for a couple of months. Good idea maybe take it in a shop and get them to do a checkout on your gear. Make sure everything's up to speed. Thermometer, tables, flags, and floats. Other gear you could have depending on the dive. Things like your flashlight, your slate and pencils, marker buoys, photography equipment. We're going to be doing some video today. No sense getting out here with the nice camera case and everything. You'll find you left the camera on the shelf at home. It's no good to just pick up a kit bag and go, because someone could have gotten into your bag, taken something out. You get out there. I remember carrying gear over about a quarter mile of beach rock one day with two other guys. We got there. They all got dressed. I got dressed. Went to put my stuff on. No mask. Couldn't go in the water. Right? I had $2,500 worth of scuba gear on my back. I was missing a $95 mask, and I couldn't dive because it was home on the counter. All right? If I had done my checklist that day, that wouldn't have happened. Spare equipment, you can have extra tanks, extra straps, O-rings, this sort of thing. It's all on the checklist, all right? With your dive planning checklist, that's another one. You can have an advanced plan, your dive purpose, who's your dive buddy, your dive site, plus an alternate. Okay? Do you have any licenses that you might need, such as a scallop license, that sort of thing? And leave your plans with a non-diver. Leave a float plan with someone so they know where you've gone. That's it for your basic scuba diver. If you're into dive leadership, it gets a little more elaborate. As a dive master, I need to use my pre-dive briefing. This is a checklist also. I have a whole other kit. I may want to bring an oxygen unit, a first aid kit, a deluxe save-a-dive kit with a lot of other repair things, because I may be taking people, I've had 10 people come down from Ottawa to spend their vacation scuba diving in Cape Breton. Wouldn't be very good for me to get out there and not have everything that they expect a dive professional to have. And this checklist here I use before getting in the water, make sure I tell people about the purpose of the dive, are they healthy, different facilities that may be available, hazards on the dive, direction and rules, stuff like that. The beauty of checklist is you don't have to have a fantastic memory. I don't have to have a great memory as long as I remember to bring my checklist. Let the checklist do all the work, okay? But checklists are a fantastic thing. If you're not using them and you're finding you're missing out on a few dives, you're missing things, you're getting out there not diving as safely as maybe you'd like to, maybe checklist is the answer for you. That's it for today's instructor tips. Hope it helps you out.
Good points, Ken. Why don't you show the people at home what that checklist actually looks like?
Sure. If we can cut away to camera 2 there, there we are. And this is the dive planning checklist I was talking about. And if you dive long enough, you will forget something. And usually when someone forgets an item, you can almost guarantee they forgot their checklist. So if you can drag us back there, thank you for your indulgence. Anyway, next show, next week.
Next show, you're taking us on a dive at Money Point.
Dive charter.
A dive charter.
It's Money Point. It's a
I
beautiful
stand
spot. Halfway around the Cabot Trail again.
Great.
Around the Cabot Trail. Beautiful boat dive on a wreck. We're going to talk about the wreck. You'll see lots of the wreck. It was rough. It was fun. We had lots of people. People from Ottawa were down visiting and took them out there. Just had an absolute ball on Eddie Fraser's big old lobster boat. And you didn't make... What were you doing that day?
I was working at something else. I couldn't make it out.
That's the stuff you do between dives, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's the stuff that is...
That's what happens in between your dives. But yeah, we're going to go to Money Point, and
so until next week, my name is Mark Boutot from the Nervous Wreck Dive Club.
And I'm Ken Jardine from Scuba Tech in Sydney. Thank you very much. Safe diving, and see you soon.